Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Arsenal transfer show. Joining you every morning at 8 a.m, keeping you up to date with what's going on in the world of Arsenal transfers. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Good morning. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Commiserations to Nick Kyrgios, of course, for those that watched the Wimbledon final, and commiserations to Verstappen. I'm not a fan of Verstappen. I'm sorry. Come on, Leclerc. Love that. It was a good weekend of sports. And, of course, it backed off with Arsenal winning on Friday as well. So a good weekend overall. A good weekend indeed. I say commiserations to Nick Kyrgios. He is a Spurs fan, so it was always kind of happening. It was always going to lose. It's very Spursy. Very Spursy indeed. AFC West Mids, good morning to you. Good morning to Matt G, to Ozzy, Gooner, Kevin, Aidan, good morning, guys. Luke, Blackshine, Radoje, good morning to you. Olu, Aditya, Melanie, Rich, Rathaveries, Jean, good morning, guys. Simon, I hope you are all having a fantastic morning. And everybody else, of course, that's joining us in the chat box as well, that I unfortunately can't read out all your names. Otherwise, one, it will take too long. And two, you get some very salty people in the comment section asking me to speed up the intro, Tom, speed it up. Because, I've got so many minutes in the day. I mean, you're wasting time saying things now. Stop wasting my time. Good morning, Scott Hill, who's become a brand new member in the chat box. I don't know why I feel so hyper this morning. I'm just a little bit weird. Something was in my tea, clearly. Good morning, everybody. Connor, how tall am I? 6'3". I hope that answers your question. Without any further ado, though, before those people really start moaning, let's get on with this morning's show. Do subscribe to The Arsenal Way. I'll be live over there at 10 a.m. Thank you for helping us hit 20,000 subs over there as well, and 35,000 subs over here. Our first story of the day is that players are expected to return to the club, which is, of course, including the likes of William Saliba, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Aaron Ramsdale, Granit Xhaka. Players that have been away on international duty and had an extended holiday are expected to come back. So very interesting indeed that they will be part of the team and away with the team for the US tour, which will go ahead this week. They travel this week. And it might be our first opportunity to see William Saliba involved in the Arsenal first team squad. Gabriel Magalhaes is, however, a possible non-starter for next season. Don't get worried too much. Just easing you in. Juventus are supposedly interested in trying to sign Gabriel for a 40 million euro deal. I don't think they're aware that as soon as you join Arsenal as a Brazilian and your name is Gabriel, you can never leave. That's how it works. Juventus don't have a chance in getting one of our Gabriels out of the team. But that is the reports coming from Italy that Juventus will try with a 40 million euro move for Gabriel. I'm not sure Arsenal have any hope of trying to get hold of Gabriel at all this summer, and Arsenal have no intention of selling him and are actually, to my understanding, in the kind of process of considering a brand new contract for the Brazilian. But he only has 2 seasons left on his deal. They will need to try and get a new one done. 2 or 3, maybe 3. Lucas Torreira has been speaking about his future once again. I mean, if there's a man that can't stop talking about Arsenal, it's Emi Martinez. And if there's a man who can't stop talking about leaving Arsenal, it's Lucas Torreira. And he recently has spoken out about the potential of joining Roma. He said he appreciates Jose Mourinho as a manager and feels as though the Portuguese coach has taken a liking to him and that he's open to working with him, and they've had conversations. So despite the fact that Torreira is expected to join up with Arsenal on the US tour, unless he refuses, unless he does a Laurent Koscielny, for instance, he will be there. But there is still said to be interest from plenty of clubs around Europe as well, including the likes of Lazio and Valencia as well. Moving ahead to potential ins for the club this summer, and David Ornstein has reported that Arsenal are one of the teams that are considering Kyle Walker-Peters as a potential right-back backup option should they feel they need to go in for one. Obviously, Arsenal so far have Cedric and Hector Bellerin alongside Takahiro Tomiyasu, so it seems unlikely. But Arsenal were named amongst the likes of Manchester United that are tracking Kyle Walker-Peters, who is supposedly open, very open indeed, to leaving Southampton this summer. They brought in Livramento, and so minutes have been a little bit tricky to come by, and he has obviously played at left back, and that may be something that Arsenal are attracted to looking into his profile. Now, yesterday we talked about N'Golo Kante, the Daily Star reporting that Arsenal are looking at that player. And prior to that, we also talked about Edon Zhegrova, who was linked with the club. However, Fabrizio Romano came out to pour some very cold water on both of those deals, saying that no offer had been made for Zhegrova and no negotiations at present are taking place for Kante. And I do want to take this opportunity to address some of the comments from yesterday's show that were like, none of the stuff that happens in these shows happens. And I have to try and to explain to you, we just tell you what's reported. This isn't us. You know, I'll tell you if it's us. And it very rarely is, because genuine news is about a percentage of the massive whale that is the chaos and rumours of the Arsenal transfer window. So don't come for me. I'm just telling you what the reports are, guys. But Romano has indeed poured cold water on these two deals. Now, one player that could still end up at Arsenal this summer is Alex Grimaldo. According to a number of Portuguese sources, Arsenal have stepped up their efforts and made a €7 million bid to sign the Spanish international. I'm going to be looking to try and complete a breakdown on him as soon as possible, along with another target who we'll come on to in a second. But considering the fact that Lisandro Martinez may end up moving for €60 million, it's a solid no thank you. I don't need Lisandro Martinez for 60 million. That's ridiculous. And I'm not surprised that Arsenal have since moved on to other potential options. Youri Tielemans, the latest with him as we start our week on Monday, is expected to be a big week in the world of Tielemans. This could be quite decisive this week in regarding his future. Arsenal, as we know, have got a priority above Tielemans in his position. That may be the person we're about to talk to next. Or not talk to. That would be quite impressive if we managed to talk to one of Arsenal's transfer targets. Maybe I'll set that as a challenge. We can actually try and talk to one of Arsenal's transfer targets. But Youri Tielemans is a player that we know has been linked for some time, but this week is expected to be a pivotal one in his future regarding Arsenal. And our headline story of the day to round off all of our news is that Arsenal are very genuinely interested in signing Lucas Paqueta, hence why we feel this is probably the player that is the mystery midfielder. That said, he is a different player to Tielemans. He's more of an attack-minded player than Tielemans, where the Belgian can play kind of a box-to-box role where he's more defensive at times. Paqueta doesn't necessarily have that same edge, defensive quality. I'm not saying he can't get back and defend. He can, and he's tracking back, and his energy and his pressures are brilliant. But he's not known for the defensive side as close to what Tielemans is. And Tielemans is hardly known for being some defensive giant of the game. So if he is to be brought in, it's quite an attacking signing. And considering we have Odegaard and Fabio Vieira and Emile Smith-Rowe, I find this a bit odd, but I'm not sure I'd turn it down, because the option to get another Brazilian in, but another fantastic player, of which Paqueta certainly is, into this Arsenal squad is very interesting indeed. I'm planning on doing a couple shows on Paqueta. Hopefully a tactical breakdown will be out for you within the next 24 hours. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel to get all the information regarding the Brazilian international, who would join up with the Gabriel trio and Marquinhos, who is an honorary Gabriel, as is any Brazilian that now plays for Arsenal Football Club. And that completes all of today's stories on Monday morning. Hopefully it's going to be a really big week for the Gunners. We're now going to move on to the second part of the show, which is, of course, tackling as many of your questions as we can in the chat box. So if you indeed do have any questions, we would like to go through them. I do want to mention that this Akshat says Brazilian, question mark, tick, goatee, question mark, tick, Gabriel in the name, no. He meets 2 of the 3 parameters used by Arsenal when signing players this summer. So, yeah, I'd say the chances of signing Paqueta are quite high. We do forget that goatees are absolutely mandatory if you are Brazilian and wanting to join Arsenal. So, you know, we might need to see Marquinhos grow a little bit if he can. But yeah, certainly they are 2 of the 3 requirements made so that you can join the club this summer. Well pointed out, Akshat. Let's move on to the second half of today's show after this quick break. Okay, then, let's jump into the chat box and tackle some of these questions. And good morning to everybody that's joining us late. If you're catching up, thank you so much. Do leave a comment on some of your thoughts and feelings about what we've discussed and what we might discuss in the coming 20 minutes or so. And of course, if you could drop a like on the video, I would really, really appreciate it. Let's go to Patrick, who says, are we looking for a new keeper already? Absolutely not, Patrick. The club are very happy with their business for Matt Turner. I found it quite strange listening to some of the reaction to Matt Turner. I mean, as I say, I tuned into Hugh's Twitter space the other day, and my goodness, the amount of kind of anger towards Matt Turner. I felt bad for Sophie that was really trying to bang the drum of Matt Turner and support him, and fair play to her. She did a great job, but it was a difficult one. Very, very difficult when you've got that many people not seemingly liking a player after one performance. Balaji says, what could be the thought process behind Paqueta? Can he play in the wide areas? I mean, if we just take a brief Paqueta look, I am going to cover this in a lot more detail this evening and this afternoon in our breakdown. Fingers crossed that we do that. He doesn't really play in a wide area, to my understanding. I might be told I'm wrong later when we do our show, but he's played. In fairness, he's played 9 games of his career at left mid, 12 games of his career at right mid. Let me have a quick check of when those games were. His last game at right midfield was in 2020. Played 1 game for AC Milan against Juventus, 82 minutes. Before that, it was all the way back in 2017, it seems. So not exactly recent. Oh, no, tell a lie. He played at right mid for Brazil in 2021 in what I believe is the 9th of March, it says on here. So there you go. That's the last time he played at right mid. Regarding left mid, let's have a quick check on left mid. I know this is the most riveting piece of footballistic YouTube content you've ever seen. But the last time he played at left mid again was in 2020 for AC Milan. So he has played a few games, but it's not his typical kind of position at all. He's normally playing in a more of a central attacking midfield or central midfield or second striker role. Very versatile player, to be fair to him, and would be a very big asset to the club. James says, what do you think of Sambi's prospects for this season? He doesn't get much of a mention amid all the sentiment transfer rumours. James, that's because he's staying. We actually reported an exclusive story on this with Sasha Tavolieri that it is an expectation that Sambi will stay. Speaking to people very close to the player, he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stick and fight for his place. And with the Europa League next season, the expectation is that he will get plenty of opportunities to do that. So I don't think we need to be worried about Lokonga going anywhere at all right now. Ross says, Tom, do I think we will sign anyone this week? Honestly, no, I don't think we will. What I think we will see, hopefully, this week is some really strong stories coming out about the progression of deals. Fees being agreed, personal terms, possibly getting closer with certain targets, maybe like Paqueta. This week's going to be big, I think, for transfers, not for signing of them, but certainly for agreeing deals and getting closer to the agreement of certain targets. It's a big, big week, I think, for that. Let's go to Sweet Baby Jesus, who says, Tom, how are you? I believe we should be going for both Tielemans and Douglas Luiz because they will only cost around 60 million combined and relatively fair wages. That would lock down the midfield. I have said for a long time that I've wanted 2 central midfielders this summer. I've said that from the beginning and well ahead of the summer transfer window. I always thought it would just be the one realistically. But I'm still holding out that we might get 2. We haven't got 1 yet, so we need to make sure we just get the first one through the door as well. Ashton says, if we get Kante, which doesn't seem that likely, do you see him playing in the 8 or the 6 role? Keep up the good work and love from New Zealand. Thanks, mate. Big up the Kiwis over in TGT Kiwis. In terms of where would Kante play, I think that he's missed. There's a big misconception that he's a DM. Like, he's not a DM. I wouldn't describe him as an out-and-out DM. So I think he would kind of play in the same kind of role that Xhaka has, with more energy and more progression and more on-the-ball work. But I wouldn't be putting him as like a lone 6. He could probably do a better job at lone 6 than Lokonga could, but I don't see him as a DM, an out-and-out DM anyway. Paqueta seems perfect for the position Arteta was using Xhaka for last season, says Ishan. I can't disagree with you, to be honest. I really can't. Deep 11, the answer to your question is no. Joseph says, if Arteta and Edu actually have their targets and said targets want Arsenal, then why would there be any delays? Because money. And I know that you're not going to like that as an answer, but Arsenal have a budget this summer and they will try and get maximum value for those players. Agents of the players, we're trying to get them on the biggest wage possible, and Arsenal will want to keep them on and within their wage structure. So I know it seems like, well, we want the player wants us. Tielemans' situation is a perfect example. Why aren't we going for them? Well, in that case, we've got other targets that we're preferring. If we can try and get them, we will. However, we do feel that there's a willingness from Tielemans that if we don't get the primary target in midfield, we just jump towards Tielemans instead, because we know that he's keen on coming, and a deal with Leicester shouldn't be too difficult. That said, if they start asking for silly money, then we may change our minds. But the reason is because we're trying to negotiate the best possible contract feasible for these players. Elliot says, should we sign both Tielemans and Paqueta for 60 million? I mean, you can't get them for both 60 million. You're going to be looking at spending about 50 on Paqueta. 45 to 50 million is what you got to pay for him. And then you're looking at paying 30 million on top of that for Tielemans. So you're looking at least 75 to 80 million to get hold of the pair. I'm not sure Arsenal are going to spend that amount of money. Galish says, Tom, any thoughts or chance of getting Koopmeiners and Gvardiol? Don't think so. Neither have been mentioned as potential transfer targets for the club with any real amount of genuinity. That's not a word. With any genuine fact, if that works. I hope it does. I hope you understand what I mean. You definitely do. Let's go to Manu, who says, could we see a formation where Paqueta, Odegaard, Jesus and Vieira play together? That would be a silly amount of sauce. Yeah, I mean, those kind of three playing in the 4-2-3-1 narrow formation, Paqueta, Odegaard and Vieira all playing behind Jesus. I think it could work. Paqueta left, Odegaard in the middle, Vieira on the right. I think that would work behind Jesus. That's a ridiculous amount of movement and attacking threat. I would definitely love to see something like that. Sam says, would you overpay for a player like Paqueta? Because I could see Arsenal getting into a bidding war with Newcastle, and he would probably be open to both moves. He'd be open to Newcastle, I think, because they'd be offering to pay him more. He'd be open to a move to Arsenal because it's a more prestigious club that has access to European football and has plenty of his Brazilian teammates. I know they have Bruno Guimaraes, but we've got the Gabriel trio, mate. So we're slightly ahead in that fashion. But yeah, I think that we would not necessarily have to pay over the odds. I think we would pay the asking price, and we should be able to get him in. Let's go to what is Paqueta's middle name, says Aditya. It's a good question. What is Lucas Paqueta's? Because I'm sure like Portuguese and Brazilian names are really long. His name is Lucas Tolentino Colo de Lima. I don't know where the Paqueta comes from. But yeah, that's his name. Lucas, I'm probably off butchering the pronunciation, but Lucas Tolentino Colo de Lima. So there you go. Maybe it doesn't have an accent on the C, so I assume it's a hard C still. There you go. No Gabriel, though, I'm afraid. Nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. Let's go to Big Fat Savalaki, who says, Odegaard and Vieira play a lot closer to the box. We need a holding mid like Youri, not Paqueta. I feel like it's a full story to make it look like Newcastle got one over us. He visited Newcastle in the last week. I didn't even know that happened. If that did, fair play. I'd never not heard that. But if he did and Arsenal want him, I hope Arsenal get him because I think he's a great player and I don't really want a player of that quality going to Newcastle, to be fair. Track says the trouble nowadays is that agents have jumped on the gravy train. Agents obviously want to get the best deal for both their client and themselves, and you know they hold a lot of weight in the market. Nick says Ben Jacobs mentioned that Paqueta would prefer Arsenal, and that isn't entirely surprising, and I have no reason to doubt Ben Jacobs on that. Akil says, what's your view on our own Lucas Torreira? As a 6, does he have a hope? I don't think he has a hope at all. Really, in this situation, I don't think there's any kind of hope in that happening. He might go on the US tour. I think his mind is elsewhere. I don't think he sees himself having a future at Arsenal. I may be wrong. I've been wrong about players in the past like El Neni, who I thought were going to leave. They didn't. Maybe Lucas Torreira will turn out to have a future at the club. We'll have to wait and see. Swedish Gooner says, with all those Brazilians in the squad, do you think that Torreira might feel better about himself living in London? The South American connection. Of course, Brazilians speak Portuguese, whereas I think Uruguayans speak Spanish. So there may be a difference there. But maybe the South American connection is strong enough. I don't know how much of an impact that would have, to be honest. But a lot of players have changed since we signed Lucas Torreira. You know, how many players that Mikel Arteta didn't sign have gone? So I think that he was now in a squad of players that aren't really that familiar to him. He's got a fair few still, you know, Bellerin, Maitland-Niles, Pepe, Tierney, but most of them are gone and are going still as well. Many more will still leave. So not necessarily sure it's the most familiar team at all. Yes, Goku, you're absolutely right. A lot of the Portuguese or Brazilian players will likely speak Spanish as well. I'm sure that a lot of them will. They're quite similar in terms of the language. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that a lot of them will. And a lot of Portuguese and Brazilian players have played in Spain as well. So that also helps. The Hippo says, surely the value for money of Tielemans means we just need to get it done. Won't dithering put him off? I don't think so. He seems very keen on joining Arsenal and just feels like it's a bit of a waiting game right now. If you're put off by the team dithering, you know, it's your choice. But I don't think it would be an issue. We'll see what happens. Arsenal just want to get the best players in. We don't want to rush and get players that aren't our priorities when we could have got someone better. So we need to try and have the strongest window possible without, of course, missing out on those potential targets. Let's go to Akil, who says, does Edu's Brazilian raid remind you of Wenger's French Revolution? I'm not sure. I think that with Wenger, obviously he was the manager and Edu's the technical director. Edu, for a while, didn't really approach the Brazilian market. We had Martinelli come in before Edu was really had a grip on Arsenal's transfers. We brought in Pablo Mari from Brazil, of course. But yeah, we didn't really have that grip. Willian and Gabriel came in. Willian was still supposedly quite a lot more to do with Raul Sanllehi, and Gabriel as well was still a lot to do with Raul Sanllehi too. So I think Edu has waited and bided his time, and now we're starting to see maybe more of that Brazilian influence on the squad. But it's also about having kind of that communication. And actually, Arteta was asked about the threat of having kind of nationality cliques, if you will, which is like when you have, you know, people within the same nationality sticking with one another in social groups in the squad, and he doesn't want that. He wants everyone to be, you know, cohesive and as one entire group rather than little small cliques of players. So I think it's going to be fine. I don't think there's going to be an issue with it. He wants a community feel about the team. He wants a togetherness in the group. That's why he's moved on plenty of troubled players from the squads, and hopefully we will feel the benefits of that again this season. Let's go to CJ. Says, hi Tom, I've been away all weekend. I know nothing about Arsenal news, so what's going on with the Martinez deal? Yeah, Arsenal aren't getting hold of Martinez, CJ. I'm afraid to tell you, it doesn't seem like Ajax are wanting a stupid fee of around 60 million now. Manchester United are the only team, it seems, that he is open for, which is a shame, but I don't think he's worth 60 million. Not at all. Let's to Deep 11 says, did you see Edu collaborating with AFTV? Great to see that he is making a connection between the fans and the club stronger. Obviously, I know that won't go down well with everybody, but I, for one, don't mind that at all. You know, I think that's great. You want to see that connection. You want to see it. And look, if anyone's going to talk to Edu, I don't mind if it's Lee Judges. So, you know, it's funny. I found it very amusing. But I saw a fair few people on Twitter going, they didn't ask him any good questions. And you have to understand, like, they aren't going to answer some questions. They just aren't. And so if you want to build that connection, if you want to build a strong relationship so that maybe in the future you can ask better questions, more in-depth questions, then you are going to ask certain questions and not others that maybe seem like, if you had the chance to say anything to Edu, that you would. But in that scenario, you're just not. And so Lee was cheeky in anything asking about transfers. So, you know, it's about building that relationship and that strong foundation. It's why in like press conferences, like you see certain questions asked, and maybe you're sitting there going, why didn't that question get asked? But you can't just ask a certain question a certain way, because you have to build up that respect level at the same time. It's just the way it works. You're not going to get invited back if you start being disrespectful or you're too prying on certain things. You have to be clever and quality with your questions. Otherwise, you won't come back. It's as simple as that. Big Flats of Lucky. I struggle saying it over and over again. Is it too wishful thinking that with saving money from Grimaldo that we could be getting ready for a really good winger? I don't think it's wishful thinking. I think that money being saved in one area could absolutely be redirected to another. I don't think it's silly thinking at all. I think it's very, very possible that that would be the situation. Let's go to Akshat, who says, Tom, as Sasha said on the show the other day, Tielemans is not the number one in the midfield. So who do you think the player may be? Paqueta is arguably this player. Paqueta is arguably that guy. So I don't know for certain who it is, and not many people, if anyone, does. But there's a chance it could be Paqueta. But that is a bit strange because they are very different in terms of the way and positions and the areas of the field that they occupy. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a good question I've missed, apparently. I'm trying to find it. Can't see it. Apparently, it was a question from Anton asking... here we go. Yes. Odd that no club is in for Tielemans. Is it a problem with Leicester? Obviously, Anton... As I say every single time, we know a percentage of what happens in the transfer window. Just because there's no reports about another team, and in fairness, both Newcastle and Man United have both been linked to Tielemans this summer. So it's not to say there's no one else, but also so much happens that we don't know about. We can't take the transfer stories literally as fact and nothing else exists, because we know that some transfer rumors aren't true. Some are. Thankfully, plenty are, but annoyingly, a lot aren't. And also, you've got a situation where, things are going on behind the scenes, especially with Arsenal, that we just don't know about, which is why I'm trying to hold judgment. I can only judge and really judge and criticize Arsenal's transfer activity come the start of the season. Because at that point, if we've not signed the players that we needed as priorities, we've not done it. And we know factually by that point, we've not done it. Until that point, I can't speak for something that we don't know is happening. So that's why I will reserve my criticism until the start of the season. If we've not signed the players we need to, then we need to make sure that we are critical, measured, and critical, and a measured criticism, if you like, of that situation, because we should have had a plan. We should have had a plan of being there. Rosh says, what are the benefits of TGT membership? Rosh, thank you so much for asking. We have four tiers of membership. Effectively, they've changed over the years. TGT, just being a TGT member makes you get access to lots of the little custom emojis and stuff in the chat box. You get a little symbol next to your name that changes the longer that you've been with us. The plus memberships, if basically you want to give a little bit extra and stick with that, which is, but most people choose the third and fourth tiers, which is the TGT expert member, which is you get to join our Discord server. You get to come on the shows for our regular podcast. We're going to be doing another members podcast again very, very soon, plus everything that you got with the previous one. And then you have the TGT ambassadors, which is for those people that, again, want to get all of that extra stuff, but want to show some more support to the channel. So there's your rundown of the membership levels. Link in the description if you would like to join the TGT community and our Discord server. It's a fantastic place to be. Adam, not really special treatment at all, to be honest, because we just try and click the questions we see pop up. I think that people will see that I read out loads of questions from people that aren't members. If that was some kind of salty comment, I don't really care. Josh says Arsenal are going on in the transfer window. 2 more signings, consolidate and bring a couple of the young players through, and we have a good chance of top 4. I think that we are going to need 2 to 3 more signings to have a really good place to be in terms of competing for the top 4, and they need to be those priority areas of defense and midfield. So there's the 2 kind of areas for that. Dan says, in fact, Tom very rarely reads my comments and actually reads more non-members. I don't want to be favorite. I don't want to give favorites to people. I've had people email me saying, you never answer my questions. And I'm like, there's over 1,000 of you watching. I can't get to every single question. It's near impossible. I literally just look at the comment section and pick the one that I see after reading it briefly now. James says, do we need another number 9? Look at Spurs' striker options. Do we have as many goals in our team? The answer is no, James, we don't. You're going to find it very difficult to match what Harry Kane and Heung-min Son can provide. And they've now added, of course, Kulusevski, and they've added Richarlison to that. It's going to be difficult to match. Arsenal need to make sure that they are strengthening throughout the team, because it's my honest opinion that we've got a better defence. than Spurs. I think we've got a better goalkeeper than Spurs, and I think that we've got as good as, if not a better, especially if we strengthen a midfield than Spurs. It's those world-class players that have carried Spurs to where they are. It's as simple as that for me, and we need to make sure that we try and close that. I do think that Gabriel Jesus helps close that gap. You know, he's a better player than Richarlison, so it's helped us close that gap. But we do need more. Absolutely. Let's going on. I can't speculate on random stuff, guys. Again, I know I feel like I'm saying this every single show, but I can't speculate on social rumors in particular. Thanks, Muds. Appreciate that. I try to be as fair as well. Actually, it says I've been a member for a while, but find the Discord server a bit overwhelming to get into. Too much stuff. I can't keep track. To be fair, our Discord server started off as basically just one channel. It has now expanded into about, 20 different channels on Discord. There's a lot of different topics and communities in there, and people love it. So I would suggest getting involved with it if you like, and you can keep up with it. If not, maybe just pick one channel to get involved with and stick with transfers, or stick with just the TGT chat, or stick with the game time. Like, there's a specific channel for like when the games are going on that you can just chat to people on. If you're like, maybe you're from outside the UK, so you can't find that connection with fans, and there's no fan clubs around you, the Discord server is really good for that during games. It gives you people to talk to while the games are on, and it's great. But as Dave says, it's a full-time job, the Discord. You know, you can miss things. It's like being in a giant WhatsApp group with 200 odd people. Mel says, Tom, why do you... sorry, I've missed your question. There it is. Mel says, Tom, why do you think we're hoarding attacking midfielders instead of defensive midfielders? Don't you think we need a DM? I think we do need someone that's going to strengthen the defensive side of the midfield. Yes, it's something that I have called for and wanted. I have preferred the number 8. The left-hand side position, I think, needs the most strengthening of anywhere, because, you know, you've got Partey and Xhaka and Lokonga and El Neni. When you look at the left-hand side, it's really only Xhaka that can play there. Lokonga has played there, but I think we need someone else. So that's why I think I look at that position more so than anything else. We've been going for over 30 minutes now. Girish says, Tom, will you do an invitation discussion with Babs? And another Gooner Talk show I love on YouTube. A massive, by the way, congratulations to Babs for hitting 100,000 subscribers. Amazing work. If you see his videos, the work that goes into them is mad. The editing, everything. It's something that I am envious of how good the production is. It's a skill that I wish I knew how to do a lot more with. Is editing, but what he produces is brilliant. So a massive congratulations to Babs, and we wish him the absolute best. I would love to have a chat with him. I've not ever spoken to him, but yeah, it's definitely something I'd be more than open to. If you're listening, Babs, DMs are open, mate. Marcus says, so do you have the stats on the number of questions read versus questions sent? Keep up the great work. Yes, XM, expected messages. That's what it would be, wouldn't it? Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate, as always, the kind support that you give to the channel. I'll be back at 10 a.m. over on the Arsenal Way. And then, of course, I'll be back at 6 p.m. today with your second show of the day. Fingers crossed, bringing you a Lucas Paqueta tactical breakdown. So I look forward to that. Thank you so much, guys, for having the time to tune in. As always, do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. As always, I look forward to seeing you a little bit later on. And as always, up the Arsenal.